If you're watching this video, that means you're interested in learning how to shift to your desired reality. Some people call it manifestation, shifting timelines, or quantum leaping. Although they do have slight differences, for the purposes of this video, just think of this as manifesting your dream life. And by the end of this video, you'll have all the information you need to start shifting to your desired reality. So the first thing to know is that you are always shifting. And every day, in every moment, in every second, every millisecond, you are constantly shifting between different frequencies. It's similar to manifestation in that you are always manifesting whether you are conscious of it or not. So when we talk about shifting, what we're really talking about is consciously shifting to our desired timeline. The first thing you need to do is decide who you want to be. And before the manifestation experts jump down my throat over the word want, just stick with me. I promise I'm going somewhere with this. So get a piece of paper or a big whiteboard and make a list. And write down everything that you desire. This can be specific to one area of your life, or it can encompass a lot of things. I want to be wealthy, I want to be debt-free, I want to buy my dream home, I want to find my perfect partner, I want to be in the best shape of my life, I want to lose 20 pounds, I want to be in a healthy, fulfilling romantic relationship. Do a brain dump, write everything that comes to your mind. This is not the time for judgment or editing, we'll get to that later. And most importantly, be honest with yourself. What do you really want? Think of this list as something only your eyes will see so that you can really get out of your own way and get out of the judgments and ideas of others and be true to yourself about your desires. And do not overthink this list. You can always add things later or remove things. When I first made my list, I was adding things, subtracting things all throughout that week, so don't worry about it. You can be as specific or as general as you want. Okay, now that you've gotten your list, we're gonna do a little bit of editing. So on your list, you have what you want, and that is perfectly fine. But when we're manifesting or calling things into our reality, we do not want to keep the energy of wanting. And you've probably heard this before, but I'll try to explain it in a way that is just very clear and easy to understand. Here's how it works. You are the creator of your own reality, and you create through your thoughts, words, and deeds. And remember, you're doing this all the time, whether you're consciously aware of it or not. So when you think and you feel and you say, I want $1 million, you are making a declaration. You are creating. You are saying, I want, which means I do not already have, which means I lack whatever the desire is. And the universe picks up on your declaration, and because you are a sovereign being and you create your own reality, it says, okay, you want. And so you keep experiencing the desire of wanting instead of having. I hope that made sense. If not, don't even worry about it. Just follow these steps and you'll be good. Okay, so we're editing our list, and you probably heard this before, but one of the most effective ways to manifest is through I am statements. So go through your list and turn each of your desires into an I am statement. So I want to be wealthy turns into I am wealthy. I want to stop living paycheck to paycheck to I am extremely wealthy and abundant. I am financially free. I have money in my savings. And one very important tip that I wish somebody would have told me is that you do not have to be hyper specific. A lot of coaches and manifestation experts will tell you to be super specific in your manifestations. And while that may work for you, it does not work for me. I tend to be someone who's very analytical. I used to be a chronic overthinker. So for me, trying to be super specific actually creates more of a roadblock and limits my manifestations. For example, I have a lot of different passions and interests, and I make my money in a lot of different ways. That sounded sketchy, but I have multiple streams of income. I'm a professional songwriter, I own my own crystal shop, I do consulting, I do content creation, and I love all of those things. I don't have one specific career path that I feel like is the only one that would make me happy or fulfilled. And that's pretty much how my entire life is. I don't have one city that I feel like I really want to live in. Basically, I'm very flexible and I'm open to whatever pleasant surprises the universe has in store for me. Being super specific in your manifestations may actually end up frustrating you and limiting you. Okay, so what do you do if you don't know exactly what you want? The key is to follow the feeling. You may not know exactly which job you want, but you know how you want to feel in that job, right? Maybe you want to feel fulfilled. Maybe you want to feel wealthy. Maybe you want to feel appreciated. Maybe you want to have a lot of time freedom. Maybe you don't want to work. That's a thing too. So instead of getting too specific, write down the feeling that you're going for. I am well compensated for my time and my career brings me joy. That's perfect. If you're seeking more direction, then you can say, I am in tune with my higher self. I am divinely guided. Now, if you do have a specific thing you want, like a certain car or like a specific house, and you have the picture printed out and everything, that's totally fine as well. What I will offer you though is the suggestion of saying, I want this or better. Because again, we don't want to limit ourselves, okay? Maybe that car is going to have some weird quirk or a recall in the future and it's going to be a pain for you to deal with. Or maybe a better car is about to come along and you'll be like, dang, I really wish I would have got that one. So trust the universe, don't limit yourself. Okay, now that we've gotten our list and it's all in one beautiful, neat column, we are going to make one more column, or whiteboard or whatever. All of your I am statements are going to go on the right side. And this column is going to represent where you are going, the desired reality that you are quantum leaping into. So we have where we're going, and now we need to shine some awareness on where we are. Don't get scared. You can do it. I know it can be a little bit scary for some of us to look at the details of like our actual situation, our actual financial situation or love life or whatever. I love this example of a GPS. So when you put an address into your GPS, before the GPS takes you to wherever you're trying to go, it first locates you. It needs to know where are you before it can tell you where you're going or how to get to where you're going. So we're going to locate you real quick. So in your left column, you're going to be brutally honest about where you are in your life. And I would keep it on topic. So if you have an affirmation that says, I am wealthy, put over here what's really going on in your finances. You can be specific, I am making X amount of dollars a month, or you can be more general, I am struggling to make ends meet, whatever it needs to be. Just be honest. That's important. Okay, so after you take some deep breaths and go through that list, you are going to notice, obviously, that there is a disconnect or a gap between where you are and where you're going. And that's perfectly normal. Before we go to the next step, we're gonna give ourselves a little bit of grace, a lot of grace, and edit this list as well. You may notice that those statements have an energy of lack because, that's just the reality of it. So just as we shifted from lack to abundance for our future self, we're gonna do that for our present self. So say you wrote down, I'm struggling to make ends meet. Find a way to shift that to something positive, something with the energy of abundance that still feels authentic and honest to you. An example would be, I'm open to receiving more opportunities for financial growth. I'm open to receiving more abundance in my life. I'm learning to be more responsible with managing my money. So it's not that you're denying the reality of where you are, you're acknowledging it, and you're shifting the energy from lack to abundance. And it's key that it still feels truthful to you. So write it in a way that it still rings as authentic and true to your current situation. Okay, so you got your two lists. And remember I said that you're gonna notice a gap between where you are and where you're going? Well, the gap is gonna be the third column. In this column, you're gonna make one last list, and this list represents the mindset and habits it will take you to get from where you are to where you're going. So you're trying to quantum leap into the reality where your body is bodying and you just feel so confident, you look so good. Then in this middle column, you're gonna write down what habits, what mindset will get you to that place. This could be going to the gym 4 times a week, taking Pilates, cutting out certain foods. Basically, this column is full of the practical, actionable things you will need to do in order to make the shift. Because remember, this isn't all just a spiritual, mental, woo-woo thing. We gotta ground that energy. Because remember, you manifest through your thoughts, words, and deeds. Can't leave the deeds out. When those 3 are in alignment, that's how you quantum leap. In order to fill out the middle column, you'll need to take an inventory of your life. How are you spending your time? Who are you spending your time with? What type of media do you consume? And again, be honest with yourself so you can cut out what needs to be cut out and add in what needs to be added. So this is my favorite part. You have your 3 lists, right? So your left column is your gratitude list. If you want to fast track your manifestations, you have to have gratitude. A lot of people miss this step and then they're confused as to why they can't get where they're going. The key is to be grateful for where you are now. Think law of attraction. When you're grateful, the universe sees, ooh, this person's grateful. Let's give them more things to be grateful about. When you're grateful for what you have now, you attract more things to be grateful for. So whenever you look at this list, I want you to remember that you are grateful for all of these things. This is not a list to look at and beat yourself up about or feel bad about. This is your gratitude list. The middle column, as we said before, represents your habits and mindset. So you can reference this list when you're making your weekly schedule, when you're setting goals, when you're deciding whether or not you're going to take that meeting, if you're going to go on that date. Look at this list as often as you need to remind yourself of the habits and the mindset that you're developing. And your right column, that's your affirmation list. Lucky for you, you already made them into I am statements. So if I were you, I would read that every single morning, maybe even multiple times a day. But at the very least, read it and say it out loud. The more you look at it, the better. We are reprogramming that subconscious mind. We are getting closer to that frequency. You can print it out, put it on your mirror, put it as the screensaver on your phone, whatever you need to do. Remind yourself constantly, okay? This is where you're going. You're almost there. You're here. Oh, you're here. If this video has been helpful to you so far, please like and subscribe. This helps me grow my channel, which is something I'm currently manifesting. Okay, so I kind of touched on this when we talked about the habits, but one thing you are for sure gonna have to do is cut it out. You are going to have to cut some things out of your life. Some people call this fasting. To get to where you are going, you are going to have to shed certain things. And the good news for you is that it's not mainly physical things. A lot of it is going to be frequential. Is that a word? Negative self-talk, limiting beliefs, that type of thing. And let me tell you something, you need to be so surgical about this. This is not the time to lie to yourself or play games. In order to have that dream life that you want, I recommend cutting out anything and anybody that is telling you you cannot have that life, or that you cannot be that person. I know it sounds extreme, but any news, any TV shows, any social media, any people that are telling you it's impossible, you gotta cut it out. And when I say cut it out, best case scenario, you completely remove that thing from your life. I understand that sometimes that can't be possible. Maybe you work with like a very negative coworker. Maybe it's a family member that you live with. So if you're unable or unwilling to completely remove the thing, then you need to get so clear and confident and focused on where you're going that you do not let any outside noise influence you. Do not internalize anybody else's belief system. That is their reality. It has nothing to do with you. Do not entertain it. Do not feed it. Do not let them plant a seed in you, because if you let them plant it, you will have to dig it back up and unearth it, okay? Don't let it grow. A lot of times people say affirmations and they wonder why they're not working. Meanwhile, they're surrounded by people and media and TikTok accounts that tell them every bad thing that's going on in the world. They're sitting there saying, I'm happy all day, while simultaneously scrolling through TikToks of people saying how horrible life is, how the economy's bad, how all the food is poison. And then you're taking on that energy and wondering why you have all these subconscious limiting beliefs. So instead of sitting on social media and scrolling through all the doom and gloom videos, find ones that inspire you. I know this phrase has a negative connotation, but for now, until you get to where you're going, you need to create an echo chamber of abundance and positivity. And I do understand we live on Earth, so it's not possible to have only positive experiences, and you wouldn't want to anyway. So when someone comes along with something that does not align with your truth, disengage. Do not engage, do not feed the thought. You can keep it cordial, say something like, that's interesting, and keep it moving. Don't go back and forth, because you don't want to sow seeds of doubt that will uproot your manifestations. Now, when I hear quantum leap, I hear huge shift, not just a minor one. And one small way to make a huge shift is by introducing chaos into your life, but the good kind of chaos. Let's call it randomness. There was an app that was really big in 2020. It was called Randomnautica. And it was a really cool app that the spiritual girlies loved because it played with quantum physics and synchronicity. So you'd open the app, set your intention on what you wanted to experience, and then you'd hit a button. And the app would select a certain location, and it would direct you to that location so that you could have your experience. So one time my intention was to connect with my inner child. I set my intention, clicked, it took me to a random location. That location ended up being a school. And when I walked to the exact dot that was on the screen, it took me to a dumpster. And in the dumpster was a bunch of toys and board games. So it really does work. So I said all that to say that when you add randomness into your life, you're able to break out of a certain pattern or box that you've put yourself into. And when you step outside that box, you're creating magic. So think of all your old patterns, beliefs, and habits as the box, and you're always operating in here. When you add randomness into your life, you're stepping out of that and you're stepping into a field of potentiality and magic and synchronicities. And you're kind of allowing the universe to lead you in a direction that maybe you would never go. Follow that. And to get to where you've never been, you have to do things you've never done. Now, you don't have to pull out the Randonautica app, but you can definitely do things differently in your own life. And they can be small things like if you take daily walks, take a path that you've never taken before. Make sure it's safe. Go to a restaurant you've never been to. Wear something that you would usually never wear. Trust me, it works. Just do it. This will expand your worldview and allow you to see things from different perspectives, meet different people, and open your life up to the magic of synchronicities. Also, since you're doing something you've never done, this is instantly shifting you to a different timeline. One of my favorite sayings is, quiet the mind and the soul will speak. We live in such a busy world, especially if you live in like a city or some place that's concentrated with a lot of energy. With so much going on around us, we want to make sure that we take time to quiet our minds, shut out the noise, so that we can hear our own inner guidance. When you are able to quiet your mind, you increase the likelihood that you will have profound insights that will help you get to your desired reality a lot faster. And it's not that God or the universe or source isn't constantly speaking to us, it's that we're not always listening, or we're not tuned to the right frequency where we can listen. If you're in a room and the TV's going, the radio's going, and your friend calls you and they're trying to talk to you, you're gonna miss out on something. And it's the same thing with our minds and all this external stimuli. One of the most powerful ways to quiet your mind is through meditation. I personally love breath work, and I'll link below one of my favorite channels, but there are a million types of meditation, so just find what works for you. One thing you may notice as you get closer to your desired reality is that self-sabotage may attempt to creep in, and one of the ways it does that is through our nervous system. I'm not going to go too much into the nervous system in this video because it's already getting a little bit long, but one thing I've noticed in myself and a lot of others is that when you start to make changes and shift your identity and shift your frequency, sometimes self-sabotage comes in the form of anxiety and overwhelm. So for example, if you're shifting to the future version of yourself who has lost weight and is very healthy and fit, then you may be on track for a week or two, and then out of nowhere or seemingly nowhere, you find yourself craving really fattening foods, maybe even foods you never had a craving for before. And a lot of times what's happening is our body is not necessarily ready for the change that we are trying to make on an energetic level. And so it's doing things to try to keep us where we are because that feels safe. That's what we're used to. So it's super important for you to find a practice and find a way to regulate your nervous system. For me, that looks like breath work. I do this every single morning and sometimes twice a day if I'm feeling anxious for whatever reason. You can also try tapping, earthing, working with calming crystals, spending time in nature, gardening. There's a lot of things you can do. Again, it's going to be personal to you, but just know if you start to feel really anxious out of seemingly nowhere, you're not alone. It's totally normal. You need to find a way to ground. You need to find a way to regulate your nervous system. And remember to give yourself grace. Be gentle with yourself. Don't beat yourself up for feeling anxious. That only makes it worse. It's all a part of the process, and you got this. And my last tip is something you've definitely heard of before: shadow work. Shadow work can look like a lot of things, but for our purposes and for the purposes of quantum leaping, I'm going to encourage you to question your limiting beliefs every time they come up. I'd recommend getting a journal or keeping this in the notes app of your phone, but personally, I like to physically write things down. I tend to journal in the morning after my meditations, but you can do this anytime throughout the day. So throughout this process, you're going to have highs and lows. When you get to one of those lows, pull out your journal and identify what you are feeling. Some people will tell you, oh, just shift your frequency, just feel better, just ignore it. Do not ignore those feelings. Those uncomfortable, those negative emotions are powerful, they're important, so listen to them and feel them. Don't run from them and don't try to deny how you feel, because what you resist persists. So if you're going through your day and something triggers you and you start to feel unworthy, sit with that for a minute. Why are you feeling unworthy? Where is this feeling coming from? Why is it coming up now? What triggered you? And try your best to identify the root emotion, because a lot of times our emotions are very layered, and on the surface, something may come out as anger, but when you really get to the core of it, it may be fear or guilt or shame. So try to dig underneath those layers and figure out why you're feeling the way you're feeling, and what you're actually feeling. And then write about it. There's no judgment here, just write about how you feel. And once you get it out, then decide, okay, is this your truth? Remember, the shortest way out is through. So by facing some of these darker, shadowy emotions, you're shining a light on them, which helps you transmute the energy and use it for your good. And you'll end up on a fast track to your manifestations. I went through that a little quickly, so if you want a separate video on shadow work, I can do that. Just let me know in the comments. All right, that's it for this video. Let me know in the comments what resonated with you the most, and feel free to drop your own quantum leaping tips so someone in our community can see it and hopefully benefit from it. I love y'all so much. I'll see you next time.